market up at the top. And the invert of that MMTs is going to be that VIX. Sorry about the delay there, MMTs. So we are going to have a timestamp on the complacency factor and the fear factor, along with some very special tools, MMTs, that you're not aware of. We have our own volume analyzer that analyzes when the bulls are in and when the bears are out. And the longer that we stay at a high level of activity in that area, we are on complete standby alert on the first red bar down in body in big price, like a red bar like this on a daily level on the S&P. When we're up at the top, picture a bar like that, sliding half of the bid, but then it never looks back. That the earnings season would be prime time to sell into the news of the great earnings reports that lay ahead. Probably 75% of the earnings reports will come in fairly decent across the board, and you'll probably have a 25% range of ones that missed the quarter, like Coinstar last week, down $17.75. And what a great market that was in after hours to buy that down there around that 39.50 handle and then sell it the next morning. Okay? The bulls are still going to want to buy the dips in these markets and these indexes. Now, the index can go higher and the fear can go lower if the financials report good earnings. Guess what? That will make them even more exuberant within the cycle. But as long as that cycle is going that way, then that means that stocks are going to bounce off their bottoms and continue in their trends. As far as public trends go, for you, it's all about price action. There's a difference between you and the public model. The public model is where the public makes very strange transactions within the Wall Street tape, as you know, MMTs, because you left that model and have entered the SMF MMT model, which is a market maker model. And as your discoveries so far have come very clear in the new year in your new apprenticeship. And the most important thing about it is that you're trained in every fashionable way about when markets are going to make tops, when markets make lows. You don't care. You're there to make a market, because that's what a market maker does, is make a market. So the public has been making a market all the way up. So why not? And we're going to get to a point where eventually it will take the financials to really come in good in the earnings season to keep this S&P getting above that 1300 handle. And we got some resistance levels up there that we already talked about. And a half delta movement on a daily chart for next week will be 3.12 ratio line. Okay? MMT's 3.12 ratio. Okay? And the thing about it is understanding the movement and understanding the strength over a compounded time. When we look at the broader movement, we are getting to extremes. However, the financials can come in and report well for the bulls within the stimulus cycle that the government has provided. And the way that Bernanke's been crossing his things, well, guess what? It's a perfect combination to go higher in the S&P 500. However, if they don't come in and report all that well, MMTs, it would weaken the top of the S&P 500, would be that financials. Okay? So those are some key elements for the public headlines. Remember, an MMT is always deciphering what the public reaction and the public headlines are, because during the day, that's who you're going to be making your transactions against. So we're going to look during the earnings season on the S&P 500. What will break the S&P 500 higher will be some good earnings coming out of them financials that have over the last 3 years finally come They're starting to see a little daylight, and that would be enough to get that bull count higher. Let's not forget about all the money on the sideline, MMTs. That's why we can stay complacent in the VIX and the fear factor for a period of time, because people would feel that the U.S. market would be a better place to be right now than some of the foreign exchange markets that we cover. Then we cover them in very detail, every one of them. Okay? So what the bulls and part of 2011 beliefs in the bull camp is that, hey, that's going to happen. That's their belief. So what? Remember, a market maker, the public is the public transaction in Wall Street. Let's face that. And this is part of what some of those mindsets are, MMT, because that's what they are. And that's how they operate. And that's how they think. And that's how they pull the trigger. And so there's a lot of money on the sideline that needs to work its way over there. And the thing about it is that eventually, if this scenario happens, we're there long, and that's what would drive the S&P 500 and the transports. So those Dow transports, yeah, they're not, these are the top 500 companies in the S&P. And the earnings ratio is what's going to drive this market higher. So it depends on what the ratio is and guidances from some of those financials that have lagged the market that keep it going higher. And we'll be having a full alert on the S&P 500 related to some of the financial ETFs. We'll watch and see where the Citigroups come in, the Bank of Americas come in, some of the regional banks come in, and some of the other financial institutions, some of the of the top 500, what they have to say. Because, once again, there's a lot of money that can chase this market extremely higher, and we're all for it, because that way we know exactly where the public is. But we also know what the behavior patterns and mindsets and beliefs are going to be within the actual move of the S&P 500 MMTs. And I'll see you on Tuesday morning on the S&P 500 special. 2 weeks have gone by, 10 trading days. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And at that 1260 level, we've burned up, right up here, all the way. And we faded back and we held the initial 1260 breakout bar, and there we go. So this is how to understand the public SMF MMTs and what the mindsets, the earnings are coming. There's lots of things that are going to be happening. Options expiration next week. So there's a lot to look at. The volatility will increase during that earnings season, and so will the volatility increase in the S&P 500 index. You've been given a gift, SMF MMT.